This is the Music and Mental Health Podcast with Theology and DJ Fat Rain.
Hey world, how's it going? Welcome to the Music and Mental Health Podcast, episode 19. The format of this episode is going to be slightly different. Reasons are, I am interviewing somebody today who is from a band called the Limit Breakers. Her name is Jisun Hughes. She's a dear friend of mine. Our discussion went really long. We really got into it. This episode covers grief and loss, and there are themes of suicide that get brought up, so there's your trigger warning. Normally I start with an hour-long DJ mix, but the Limit Breakers just released an EP called Iron Fist, and it's fantastic. So the format of this episode is going to be different. We're going to start with the discussion, part 1, and then we're going to play the EP in the middle. And you're going to hear how incredible it is, and I'm really excited for that. Then, we're going to finish the discussion with a part 2. So, without further ado, here's part 1 of my discussion with Jisun Hughes of the Limit Breakers. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Music and Mental Health Podcast. I'm Theology. DJ Fat Rain is on a slight hiatus right now. He's going through a lot of things in his life, and we are giving him some grace and giving him a break. But today with me, I have one of my favorite people who I have met in recent times. This is Jisun Hughes. Jisun, we met during VGM together, actually. Yeah, I saw you in the chat a lot during my set as the Limit Breakers VGM, and I had no idea who you were. But then you DM'd me and you said, hey, you should come catch our set. And I did. I literally set an alarm for it on my iPhone. And I custom named it the Limit Breakers. And it's still in my iPhone, actually.
That's amazing.
So sometimes I wake up to the Limit Breakers like I did today. I just haven't changed it yet. Yeah. So anyways, and then Jisun and I met in person at MagFest, which was an incredible weekend. And yeah, we've talked a lot. We've gotten really deep and real with each other. So I want to have you on the podcast because you have quite the story, and I know that it can help people. So Jisun, do you want to tell us your story?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Matthew, Theology, thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to talk to your listeners.
Yes.
And share some stuff about the Limit Breakers and myself.
Woo.
So as we all know, maybe in a past not too far ago, we were in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
So I was a student at the University of North Florida. When we all went on spring break in March of 2020, we had no idea that we would not be coming back for a whole year.
Yeah.
So, it's like kind of late March. I'm getting antsy because I want to play music, but I can't physically play music with my friends, right? So I essentially start to brainstorm. I see a lot of these virtual ensembles popping up online, and I have the technology. We can make this happen totally.
Absolutely.
And so I, was putting together ideas, and I was like, well, I'm a brass player. I'm a classically trained player. I have a versatile background in music because I was an Army musician. And kind of did the thing backwards. I got out of high school and then went into the Army as a musician, and then went back to college to get proper education in quotation marks.
Yeah, right. I was gonna do it if you didn't.
And so, I was like, okay, well, I know brass quintet. That's like a small chamber ensemble. That's my bread and butter. I can do that. And so, yeah, my first idea was whatever. I'll just see who's interested. It doesn't have to necessarily be a brass quintet. So I shoot a message out on Facebook one day. And I'm like, hey guys, I'm wondering if anybody is interested in playing and forming a video game music band with me. I think it would be fun. I'm in the process of working on an arrangement right now. I just want to see who's interested. And before I know it, Paul, who's my current drummer.
Love
He's
it.
one of the OG limit breakers. Yeah, you met him as well.
Represent.
He's messaging me like, "Hey, I would love to do this," and I was like, "Okay, cool, I got a drummer." And then, before I know it, Kylie, who is Kyle's well, now wife.
Yeah, they got married. Yeah.
Yeah, they just got married.
Woo.
She messaged me saying, "Hey, I saw this. I saw your post, and my boyfriend, he loves video game music. He's a guitar player. I think he'd be great for this. Like, he really loves video games. Would you be interested in having it?" And I was like, you know what? Screw it. Why not? Let's have a fucking guitar player in this band now.
Let's go.
So, it just kind of like escalated. Before I know it, I have like 18 people on the screen, right? I contacted a videographer. We put out our first video, which is the Those Who Fight cover, which just kind of jump started our YouTube channel.
Yep.
And then, we've been, fast forward today, it's been 3 years of YouTube covers, which we post kind of inconsistently because we're not like, no offense to anybody else, but we're not slaves to the YouTube algorithm. So
no, I love that. Let's go.
So we just like, hey, if we need a break, we take breaks. There was one kind of involuntary break in there, but yeah, like mostly
break is in the name, the limit breakers. LOL.
Yeah,
There's my dad joke for the podcast.
There's so many meanings for our name. It's crazy, right? We can get really meta.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's crazy. And then this last year we started our live band, and that's kind of the direction we're going in, is we're kind of moving away from these multi-track videos. Actually, we are going to be moving away from those and just focusing on our live band and just uploading content related to that. And that group is going to become the Limit Breakers. I mean, it's kind of already like set in stone already because of the live music performances. And I'm like,
you're literally on flyers with those people right now. So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. It's cool to know the history. I don't think we've actually ever really talked about it with each other, which I love learning new things in a live, I guess, atmosphere. This is really cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've dealt with in your life as far as mental health goes? Because these things we have talked about, and I know for a fact that just sharing your story and being raw and real about this is going to help so many people. So, without further ado.
Yeah, for sure. Where should I start? Maybe I'll start with the Army. So
that sounds good.
I was a young 19-year-old woman. Only one or two ways out of my hometown is to go into the military or go to college. And I chose go in the military to get college money, really.
It's
if
a
I'm
good
just
idea.
Gonna be honest, that's what I did. I mean,
America's expensive. That's how it goes.
Yeah, it became something. It meant something more to me later on down the road. But originally, I just joined for like, well, they can help me get to college because that's always where I wanted to go, anyways.
Yeah. Right.
So it's 2009, 2010 time frame. I get to my first duty station after wrapping up the School of Music, and it's back home in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Well, things are going okay. But then I quickly realized, like, I may be back home, but my life is owned by the government now. I'm a soldier in the Army. I have to abide by all these rules, all these regulations. I have to show up at certain times or I get in trouble. Right. And it wasn't the showing up part that I had a problem with. What I ran into was not being understood. I was very misunderstood as a young soldier. I kind of was a bit more direct back in the day. If that makes
really?
Sense. Yeah, a little bit on the abrasive side,
I see.
I still have some of those direct tendencies. Specifically when I'm giving like feedback about like mixing. I'm never like, oh, this sucks. Like I always like say, hey, I don't really like this, and this is why. Can we try this? That's kind of more like my style now. But
yeah, so you know how to give good feedback.
Yeah. And I was never like the kind of be like, oh, this sucks, back in the day either. But
yeah,
I was kind of direct and abrasive, and oftentimes people interpret it as like, oh my God, she's so rude. But like, it's just like, I'm just a Southerner. Like,
and also like Why beat around the bush? Let's fix the mix. Right.
And so yeah, it was that long story short, at some point I really started to notice something was off with me. um I started getting increasing suicidal ideations, very intense, uh bad nightmares, um and it was affecting my sleep. It was affecting of course, my psyche. Everything was just getting affected. And what it came down to was like I ended up, because I'll oftentimes, I don't do this much anymore. I used to voice my opinions a lot online about like I'm not doing too good or I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
and these cryptic messages would send off red flags for people like, oh my goodness, is Hughes okay? Because military, they refer to you
Right.
by your last name.
Hughes.
um, and so really I ended up having to go and seek help, not voluntarily, uh, with a mental health clinic in the army. And so that kind of jump started my mental health journey, um, to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time they were like, it's GAD. And I'm like, what's GAD? Generalized anxiety disorder. I'm like, okay. Well, 6 months go by, and then the diagnosis changes. And it's like, well, you have anxiety with depressive features. And I'm like, okay, all right. Another 6 months goes by, maybe like to a year, because like, there's gaps here. And then they're diagnosing me with adjustment disorder. And for those that are familiar, adjustment disorder can only be a 6 month diagnosis until they find what's actually wrong with you. Right.
Huh.
And so I had adjustment disorder on my in my medical sheet for like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 years. Like they never readjusted what it was that I had. And then, fast forward me getting out in 2016, I was medically retired out of the military, um, newly married, moved to Florida. And then um, those problems arise, right?
Yeah.
I think I've briefly talked to you about my ex-wife.
Yep.
It's still a source of pain for me
Mm-hmm.
to talk about her, because of just how she treated me. And through that relationship, I actually learned, like, what toxicity was. I learned um what gaslighting looks like,
Yeah.
what emotional manipulation looks like, and how,
Totally.
I was being accused of those things when it was actually the other way around. Um, and so, yeah, like, uh, kind of backtracking, before I get into that. In 2012, I had a situation where I was wrongfully accused of some stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail because
Yeah.
it
Only
just
share what you're comfortable with. It's
yeah,
okay.
it's
Yeah.
just a source of a lot of like trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, my chain of command was not very supportive, obviously, because they believed the other party involved.
Yeah.
But after a thorough investigation, uh, things came out that it was indeed false allegations, but the damage was done already. So like,
Yep.
that
Unfortunately.
added a lot of things to me, and I actually suffer from PTSD from that incident, because I actually had a bit of a psychotic episode, where I dissociated very heavily, because of the trauma induced
Yeah.
upon me. My chain of command had cut off my family from me, from talking to me. It was a really rough
Wow.
time. So it that was a really hard time. I did not think I'd get through. I was suicidal during that time as well. And so yeah, now hopping
Understandably.
back now
Yeah.
hopping back to the ex-wife situation.
Yeah.
In 2013, while I was actually still in the military, um, that was actually when I hit one of the lowest points in my life, where I actually did attempt. That was my first um recorded attempt that I ever, tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have had quite a few attempts in my life. That one was definitely one of the major ones, and it was related to her. And so yeah, it's crazy, looking back, I'm like, why did I decide to marry this individual? Why did I get back with this individual? It's a part of it's a part of the choices I made as an adult, and I have to live with that. But I'm grateful for that, because if I didn't do that, I would have never met Jocelyn, and
Yeah,
who's my current partner. Um, she is so fantastic.
she really is. I met her at Magfest as well. I just want to
So
let the
yeah,
listeners know she's amazing. Yeah.
so supportive. Complete 180
Yeah.
of an individual, and she's really makes me strive to be a better person every day. But yeah, I'm sorry that this is jumping all around and
That's
stuff,
okay.
but
No worries.
yeah, uh, the most recent traumatic thing to occur in my life, that I mean, we can get into that, if you want to do another prompt or whatever, but um, that's essentially like my life story, like a little bit about my life background up until, I guess, sort of kind of like a couple years ago, because
Yeah.
as you know, a couple years ago something really bad happened in my life, and
Yeah.
so yeah.
Um, One thing I want to say before we get into that is oftentimes we look back at decisions we made, like you being with your ex-wife. You literally just said, why did I make that decision? Right. But it's something I had to live with. And, I'm glad I did because I never would have met Joss. Oftentimes we do condemn ourselves for our past mistakes in such a manner, right? Not that not that I was married, but I also experienced a relationship that was pretty bad, pretty abusive mentally, and it also made me want to do similar things. And I did condemn myself at first for making those choices, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you look at the positive and you see the beauty arise from the ashes, there's nothing better than that, right? Like this
Yeah.
led you to where you are now, and where you are now is fantastic. And, you know, yeah, maybe different choices would have led you to somewhere else that would have been, I don't know, different. I don't want to say better, but different, and you could have
Yeah.
avoided all that trauma. But now you have a story to share, and that story can empower others. So, um, but yeah, let's get into that event that happened 2 years ago, because I think it's one of the most pivotal and powerful things.
Yeah. So, uh, so my nephew Dennis passed away um, March 24th of 2021. Only a year into the pandemic. Um, he had epilepsy, um, and he passed away from a rare type of seizure known as sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, or SUDEP. Um, Denny and I were extremely close. I don't, I've never really heard of any other people who are like an aunt or an uncle having a relationship as I did with my with my nephew.
Yeah.
He was more like my little brother because of the way we grew up. We were only 7 years apart.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
we had a lot of like interests, you know.
Right. Was he also
Right.
into VGM?
Yeah, we played video games together.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah, he loved video games and video game music. Like we would like hum along to tunes all the time as
Love that.
kids.
Yeah.
Um, I helped raise him a little bit as a baby. I changed his diapers, like, like I was very involved with his life up until the end. Um, and his death, of course, was something that it absolutely broke my heart. It shattered me into millions of pieces. Um, that was my sister's only son, and it's obviously it's still a source of grief and pain for me
Yeah.
to this day. To my family, to my immediate family, Denny dying really hurt us all. Um,
I can only imagine.
yeah. Um, I was broken. Like I was so lost. Um, I actually the band had to go on a 5-month hiatus to give me time to just get back to being functioning.
Totally. Yeah.
I dissociated, for like 2 months. Every single day for 2 months, I cried. I sobbed. I was not functioning like a normal person. I barely ate, and a lot of people don't talk about, I mean, because grief is personal, right? Like
Right.
a lot of people don't openly talk about it, but I think it's personally for me, I think it's important to talk about it, because if you don't talk about it, that person is just a memory that you have, and it's going to die with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that they knew. And it's important to keep talking about them to keep their memory alive. And
I love that.
So as painful as it is, like, to talk to you all about it right
Mhm.
now, I think it's important to show, like, 12 years later, I'm still struggling with mental health, various things in my life, whether it was a divorce or, um, a traumatic experience in the military, or, um, losing my best friend. And I didn't mention that, but I lost my best friend shortly after I joined the military to a car accident. And then, you know,
Oh my gosh.
my nephew, of course, being a very integral part of my life, dying. Um, and I've lost before, I
Mhm.
lost, like I said, I lost my best friend. I lost my grandmother like 4 years before I lost Denny, and that was rough, but I've not experienced intense grief like this until we lost Denny. Um, yeah, Dennis was just he's a chaotic neutral, man. Like,
Yeah.
you would have loved him. He was
I can only
he was
imagine.
he was a fucking trip. He was funnier than me. And one thing that I really loved about him was that he trolled the trolls, man. Like, he could not stand bullies. He could not stand bullies, and
Mm.
he put them in their place, and it was the funniest thing ever. And
I
some
love
of those
that.
bullies would become his friends because he would turn them. It was crazy. It's like, what the hell are you doing to
I
make
love
these,
it.
like, where is this superpower? Why couldn't I have that growing
He,
up? You
he
know what I mean? Because I
extinguished.
I was bullied, so it's crazy, like, to see this kid,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
it's crazy just to see this kid who just has such chaotic energy, just, you know, do the things he did in
Yeah.
life. And he was, before he died, he was just on the cusp of, like, finally figuring out what he wanted to do in his adult life. He was working towards being a nurse. Um, and so, he loved helping people.
Yeah.
It's where he thrived. Like, he was just such a light. I know a lot of people will brag about their person, their people in their life, because they want to present the best version of them, but Dennis truly was that person.
Yeah, totally. Um yeah, it's really cool. I have also learned that, you should definitely keep speaking about somebody, after they're gone, because uh if you don't, then yeah, their memory dies, right?
Yeah.
What I love in you talking about Denny right now is that you're bringing up all these insanely cool, positive things about him, right? And gosh, that is something to be admired and emulated. And just think, if we didn't talk about people like Denny, we wouldn't talk about those positive things. And then perhaps they would not influence us in our future. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. Without further ado, here is the Limit Breakers with the Iron Fist EP. Enjoy.
Podcast.
Wow. That is Iron Fist. Seriously,
Yeah.
though. Tekken music is underrated. Let's go.
I agree
Yeah,
wholeheartedly
it's
that it
so good.
is.
Um, thank you for enabling me to play the whole thing. I know that it's I just want to promote you guys because oh my gosh, I'm obsessed
Oh,
with you
thank
and
you.
cannot wait for your set at VGM Con. That's going to be a trip. But anyways, before the break and before that incredible EP, we were talking about how loss can shape the future in your life. I also have personally dealt with loss. So I had a friend who I actually met him serving him at Perkins, which is like it's a restaurant like Denny's, but it's like classier. I'm putting that in air quotes
Yeah,
for the
I
audio
know
listeners.
Perkins. We've
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
couple
right
here in
on.
Florida.
Dude, I actually miss it. And like when we move back to Minnesota, I'm for sure gonna eat at Perkins. But um yeah, so I met him serving him. He was, I want to say he was 63 when we met. It was him and his wife, Sue. Uh so okay, there was like buzz in the kitchen that the day that I
Mm.
met him, like, oh, the kilt guy is here. So this dude, he would wear kilts just out in public, not even Scottish. Like he would just wear kilts because he was just that cool. So I started talking to him and I found out he likes rugby too. And I played rugby when I was in high school. And so we had this like connection
Whoa.
right away. Yeah, I know, right? I broke 3 bones though, but it was like the most fun I've ever had playing sports. So whatever, it evens
That's
out.
intense.
I know, super. Yeah, so uh he actually invited me over to his place to watch a rugby match. And when I got to his place, we watched the match, made all these jokes. It was super fun. And then me talking about my music came up, and lo and behold, this dude liked trance. He literally had music on his computer from Anjuna Beats, which is like this tattoo that I have on.
What? That's
Yeah. And I'm
amazing.
like, you're 63. Like, what? Needless to say, that dude and I became like best friends. This was also at a time when I lived in downtown Minneapolis and he lived on the other side of downtown Minneapolis. So
Wow.
I would bike to his place all the time. We would hang out and have coffee. He was a mentor to me, and he is one of the reasons why I am who I am today. Was his influence on my life. Uh, Sadly, I was starting a new job at a new restaurant called Longfellow Grill, which him and his wife they were regulars at Perkins, and then they became regulars at this place called Longfellow Grill, and they talked me up to the management and basically got me a job there. And the week that I was training, uh, he had to go to the hospital, and I thought he was going to be fine. I thought he was going to be okay, and then he passed away from a brain hemorrhage, and I never got to say bye. And
Oh,
yeah, his influence on my life was insane. And that is the one thing in life that I regret, is that I never went to see him and say bye. But to make up for
yeah.
it, um, I took a trip to the Netherlands. That was another special place for us. One of my first time in the Netherlands. Him and Sue happened to be there as well, just randomly. So I met up with them and we did a bike tour. We had pannekuchen together in these tiny hole in the wall restaurants, and just super cool. I mean, that is a huge reason why I am in love with that country today, is because of his influence on me. But we were talking earlier about how loss can shape our future, right? And my goodness, like if only he could see me now, he'd be so proud of how I've grown, how I have changed in life, and how I'm different yet still the same in a lot of ways that are all positive. I mean,
Mhm.
heck, I'm becoming fluent in Dutch now. Like he would be so proud
That's
of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Like
totally.
um he'd be so proud of where I am at with my music. I just know it, and I miss him every day dearly. Uh kind of a weird connection, right? Because not my family at all, but he became very close to me, kind of like family. And again, not trying to one up. I'm just trying to relate.
Oh no, no.
That's all I
I'm
ever try to do.
not taking it that way at all.
Yeah,
And
good.
I'm really sorry for your loss. Like I really
Thank
wish I
you.
could have met them. They
Yeah,
sounded like they were a very wonderful person.
I'll show you some pictures at VGM Con.
I would love that. I
Yeah,
would love that.
he's the bomb. And yeah, his wife is still kicking. She also is in Minneapolis. And oh, I need to tell her that I'm officially moving back so that we can start hanging out again. But yeah, that
That's
is one thing
awesome.
that we do. And actually, his funeral, we called it his graduation party, which I love that. And yeah,
Yeah.
like we that was one of the things that was emphasized, right? Was to talk about these people when they're gone, because if you don't, then their memory dies, and that's not okay. And I don't think they would be okay with that. So especially the
Yeah.
big O. What are some other ways that uh your loss has helped shape your future for positive ways?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for sharing that wonderful, story about your friend with me.
Totally.
That there definitely were some parallels there that I felt,
Yeah.
in what you were saying. Uh, I would say like, after the hiatus, like I was telling you earlier, we had a 5 month hiatus. Um, then when I came back, we came back swinging. I was determined to take my life back from grief. I was determined to be a functioning person again. And the band was super supportive. They were so happy when I contacted them and saying, "Hey, guys, I think I'm in a place where I can get back to working on videos, get back to working on making music." And they were so thrilled to have me back. They were like, "Yeah," they weren't sure if like we were going to keep doing it, but they were so happy because TLB isn't just a source of happiness for me and fulfillment for me. It's also a source for you know
Totally. Seven
for
or six other
yeah
people, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
exactly.
So
And so and at the time it was like more like 10 people, but yeah,
yeah.
like they
True,
all
true.
they all were about it. They all were like, yeah, this is great. We can't wait to get back. And we came back with that Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time medley
Let's go.
video.
Yep.
uh and it just kind of kick-started a year too, where Kyle was writing a lot of the arrangements and I was video editing, so it was really nice to have some more of delegation. And Kyle's honestly like he's a master arranger. He comes up with some
Oh yeah.
really unique things. And it's really cool to see like just how far we've come. Like we were year two, I would say, like we got really experimental. But going back to how Denny kind of helped shape that for me was
Hmm.
I was determined to carry the pain forward. I actually have a tattoo. It's a kind of hard to see, but it's a Legend of Zelda, or not a Legend of Zelda, excuse me. It's a Kingdom Hearts tattoo. Like there you go.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
I
Love
know
it.
it's not really a good view there, but
It's all good. Just
essentially
describe it. Yeah.
it's the Kingdom Hearts heart,
Hmm.
and it's got his initials in the middle, DFF, for Dennis Freddy French. And there's an epilepsy ribbon intertwined with it at the bottom here. And then in Latin it says prefer et obdura, dolor hic tibi, proderit olim, which means be patient. Someday this pain will be useful to you. He had that tattooed on either his upper right chest or his upper left chest, kind of at an angle. And I remember when he first shared that tattoo with me, I was actually one of the first people to find out about it because his mom did not know about it.
Got
My
it. Yeah.
sister, she was infuriated when she found out he got it like
Yeah.
less than 48 hours after he moved from
Oh,
Korea, which was funny. Um, but so
wild.
essentially, that was a phrase that was very meaningful to him. So I decided, well, Denny was a very louder than life kind of person, so I'm gonna have a tattoo that's visible for people to kind of ask me about it, to
I
generate
love that.
that and to also carry the pain forward. And so I was determined like to fight off the ideations, fight off off everything that was getting in the way of me continuing to make music and doing the thing that I love to do, that Denny supported me on. That he knew, like, I know that he would not have wanted me to continue to just stay stuck with my grief.
Totally.
Instead of trying to move forward, move through it rather.
Yeah.
Because you never truly, in my opinion, you never truly get over it. It's going to always stay with you for the rest of your life.
I totally agree. Yeah. 100%.
It's going to stay with you,
Yeah.
I saw this like diagram recently, maybe like a few months ago. It really helped me. Like, sorry if you see me leaning over, I'm trying to get my cat to stop.
You're fine.
Doing
Do your
funny
thing.
things.
It's all good.
It was this like iron ball, right? And inside of a jar that showed like the I guess the metaphor of grief. Like, we grow around our grief. It doesn't get smaller. It's the same size. We just grow around it. And that's when something clicked in my head. I was like, yeah, like, I have come so far in just 2 years. I still have the moments where I think of him and I burst into tears.
Right, for sure.
But I also have moments where I'm like, man, he would think that's so funny, or like, or like, wow, this reminds me so much of him, or like, man, he would probably like laugh at this, or he probably like roast this person so hard, like I would just have those kind of moments, and the moments of bursting into tears have become less, but I still have them. Like, I know I'm going to be a mess here in a couple of days because the anniversary is coming up on the 24th of this month. So it's
wow,
kind of leading up to it. I'm kind of glad I'm been involved with the podcast, so I can kind of prepare myself mentally for this. So thank you for that. But kind of like encompassing. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Kind of encompassing everything, you asked me. Sorry. I know, long story short, which I tend to get on these tangents, but Denny dying motivated me to get off my ass and live. Get off my ass and try to make art that I'm proud of, that I know he'd be proud of me for.
And he would.
Try to have a meaningful life and try to be as good of a person and make as positive of an influence as possible. It's what it motivated me to do. And I'm striving for every day. Don't know if I'm succeeding, but I'm striving for it.
Well, Jisun, I've only known you for what, 5 months now? 6 months? And Iron Fist is unbelievable. Like, you'd be proud of you. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, unless he like was one of those people who hated good music. I don't know.
No,
he'd be proud.
he liked good music. He also liked trash music, and I made fun of him for it. No, but just like weird. He liked like weird like indie bands, and I thought it was quirky, but I loved that about him. I was totally like,
well. Man, I honestly like, I want to wrap this up here because I feel like this is a really good note. I got the warm fuzzies. Can you repeat what you said earlier about grief growing around you? I want to end on that note because oh my gosh, it's so powerful. I had never thought about it that way. I mean, you probably even saw me on camera. I did the like mind blown thing. I've never thought about it in that way. But it's true. Like, we grow around it. And I feel like the more that we talk about things like this, the more we grow and the more power we gain over the grief, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it's going to be there. It's going to be the same size. But the more you talk about it, the more you grow powerful, and the more you're able to cope and to deal with it. And again, I know both Owen and Denny would be very proud that we're having this conversation. I really hope it helps people and inspires people. I don't know. Do you have any last minute thoughts, Jisun?
Yeah, no. You encapsulate everything that I was gonna say. I'm grateful for the opportunity to open up, and for any listener out there that is struggling with grief or anxiety, depression, maybe bipolar symptoms, or anything related to that, just know, like, I know it's cliche, there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Hmm.
Uh, and there are going to be days, maybe even weeks, maybe months, maybe even in years, that you feel like you're struggling to tread water, and and you don't know if you're going to make it. But there are people out there that love you and they care about you, and
Yeah.
they want you to keep going, and they want you to thrive, and to work at getting everything in life you deserve. And you know sometimes sometimes there's going to be obstacles that get in the way of that, but by relying on those people, and by having a good support system, um I can't stress therapy, and maybe if it's what you need, medication,
Hmm.
enough, because it can help balance you out. Um it can help you turn your way of thinking around, so that way you can combat the suicidal ideations, so that way you don't find yourself attempting to take your life, or that you don't find yourself in a situation you can't get out of again, because it's sadly a permanent thing. When
Yeah.
you're gone, and we need you here. Like, I may not know you, um you may not know me, but I can say 100% that I care about you,
True
and
words.
I want you to stay here on Earth, and so
Let's go.
stay here as long as your natural body will allow. That's the goal, is to stay here as long as your your heart and your body engine can keep going. um
Absolutely.
so that's that's what I got to say to you, listener. You got this.
Love it.
You do it.
Jisun, thank you so much. Remember, one day
Absolutely.
this pain will be useful. uh,
Absolutely.
let's go. On that note, guys, thank you for tuning in. Man, this has been a great discussion. I have linked the Limit Breakers EP in the description. If you're on YouTube, that is. Don't really know how to do that on Spotify yet because I'm a boomer or something. Uh, but definitely give it a purchase, support them. And if you're in the Minneapolis area, April 14th to the 16th, we will both be performing at VGMCon. So make sure you catch us there. We would love to say hi. Without
Right.
further ado, thank you again, G Soon, and we will see you guys next month on the Music and Mental Health Podcast.
Thank you, Matthew. It's been a pleasure.